This is On Diversity, a podcast series by the Institute of Policy Studies, Singapore. This is the second season, and I'm your host, Liang Kaixin, Associate Director of IPS and also a former journalist. Today's episode is on the homeless in Singapore, and we have Dr. Harry Tan, Research Fellow of IPS, and June Chua here today. June Chua is the founder of T Project, Shelter for Homeless Transgenders. Welcome to the podcast today.
Hi.
Hi, Kaixin.
Okay, so I have a question for both of you first that's very, very closely related to COVID. How has COVID-19 affected the homeless in Singapore?
I think what we see on the ground, even as a volunteer, is that COVID-19 has actually brought homelessness indoors. So mainly during the circuit breaker, what really happened was a lot of more organizations actually stepped forward and offered shelter. And it was an opportunity also for to bring people back into shelters. So in a way, I think like what was mentioned in the Homelessness Forum this year, Dr. Ng Kok Ho did a count this year, and one of the early indication was that the numbers have dropped. This also means like more homeless people have moved indoors.
He previously counted around 1,000, right? So what was the numbers this year?
The results are not announced yet, have yet to be released. I think what we can really see is that even as Singaporeans retreated indoors during the circuit breaker, homelessness, I think, or homeless people had also gone indoors into the shelters. So I think the indication here is that we got to pay attention to the shelters.
Okay. I'm quite surprised that you say that there are less homeless people during the COVID-19. I mean, June, what's your take about this?
I think homelessness is always indoor. They're always. The perception of homeless means they must sleep on the streets. We found them in open air car park down the boy there. But I don't think it's true, lor. I have homeless people who are quote and unquote indoors. Stay the old rental flats where the void decks are actually on the upper story. So homelessness doesn't mean they will be out in the open. So there are ways where homelessness, call them indoors homelessness, where homelessness people where stay indoors. And then when you say during COVID-19, lesser homeless people and they retreat, they move into shelters, I'm very mindful. Means permanent accommodation or just during that period where where they are housed temporarily indoors. So now that the safety measures are relaxed, are they outdoor again? So is the number going to go up again? So is staying indoor means they got permanent accommodation already. So they are no longer homelessness. They are no longer homeless, or they found a place to sleep for that night.
Okay, but I just want to go back to Harry because I don't really understand. What do you mean by going indoors? So if they are inside shelters, does it mean that they are still considered homeless?
In Singapore, when we count the homeless, especially I think in our country here, we tend to think of homelessness as street homelessness or rough sleeping. But June is correct. Homelessness is not just about rough sleeping. It's not just about sleeping outside. Homelessness is also about the lack of security housing or lack of secure housing actually. So in that case, if we talk about people who are living in shelters, most Western countries also count this group as people who are homeless. The term for them is sheltered homelessness.
I see.
I wouldn't say unfortunately, but at this stage, our country don't really count sheltered homeless people yet. But I guess that's something that we can think about.
So June,
yes.
I mean, just going back to the first question, like how has COVID-19 affected the homelessness? Do you see actually more people coming to your shelter for help during this period?
Yes. So we have, especially those that are affected by Malaysian movement control order. So I have seen more and more people affected by COVID. One is family violence. because I target the transgender community. So when COVID happens, right, the transgender person are forced to stay at home 24 hours. So they lost their jobs. So they are forced to stay at home 24 hours and face their transphobic parents. So more fiction. So I got one case where lost the job, stay at home, fiction with the mother, verbal abuse become physical abuse, and then she had to admit herself into IMH in order to have a safe space, and then IMH refer her to my shelter. I also have cases where Singaporean PR, the trans man who is affected by the Malaysia movement control. So usually after work, he will go back to his house in JB. But
Through the causeway, right?
That because the border closed, right, no longer able to do that. So he has to find like semi-permanent accommodation in Singapore. But then the company put him in a hostel with biologically males, and then he was constantly in fear of his safety because he's a trans man with a vagina. So he constantly can I say that or not?
It's okay, that's a body part, it's fine.
So he's constantly in fear of being out, and then when constantly in fear of being molested, being raped. So it's add on to the mental anguish. But finally, he founded Tear Project. So we offer a safe space for him. I'm very happy that the VTL with Malaysia is opening it. But still, the situation doesn't apply to him because he need to travel daily back home. He don't have a permanent home in Singapore.
Okay, I think you touched on the point about family violence. I want to go back to Harry because anecdotally we know that quite a lot of people are affected during this period, like when they stay at home. I mean, not just the transgenders, but there's a bit more family violence and all that and friction. So, I mean, other than those who are sheltered, do you see more of such cases happening actually?
In terms of family violence, we don't. I mean, I speak as a volunteer here, in terms of volunteering with different groups that are going out. Most of the people we see are older people who are still rough sleeping outside. So that's the key demographic. So in that group, we don't really see a lot of family violence because the family violence may or may not have happened in the past. That's why they are now on the streets. But I have an ex-student who did a project on youth homelessness. So for the younger people, there is quite an amount of neglect and family violence, and therefore forcing younger people to couch surf or to even sleep outside for 1 or 2 nights. So I can't give a clear indication as to, is this family violence as a result of COVID? Did it lead to more homeless people? But those are some of the things we observe.
Okay. In regards to the younger homeless people, is this a more recent trend?
I think similarly, this reminds me of what June said earlier on. That is, actually a lot of homelessness happen indoor. So with the youth homeless group, we don't really see them because it happens indoor, because young people would then go from their friend's house, go and stay at their friend's house. You won't know that they are homeless. You can't see that they are homeless. But their housing is very insecure because they don't want to go back. When they go back home, it's a violent environment. It's an insecure environment. So we actually need more research in this area as well, especially indoor homelessness. Yeah.
Add on to Harry Tan, stay with friends. Some from my community will stay sauna rooms. We stay in computer rooms where they can play computer.
LAN shops.
Something like that.
Oh wow.
When someone have a membership, so they will let their homeless friends stay inside. Then they can sleep inside. So I really so amazed. I call it indoor homelessness.
Yeah, we have a new term today.
Yes. And also homelessness. The demographic of homelessness changed. No longer elderly.
The older men.
No longer
right?
the older men, because I have yes, I agree with Harry Tan. Younger and younger person who experience homelessness because of family violence. Families who do not accept them because of gender identity, because of a medical condition, or because of emotional baggage they have very resistant. So I'm seeing younger and younger person coming to my shelter and stay. Yes, I have graduates I have a banker. I have one banker. I have graduate university degree holders staying at my shelter. Yes.
Wow.
So it's no longer the stereotypical elderly, homeless, elderly, no family support kind of demographic of homelessness. It have really evolved already. Yes.
But that's really one of my questions. Who are the ones who are homeless actually in Singapore? I mean, I think just a few years ago, I think it's almost taboo to say that there are homeless people in Singapore, right? But really, who are they? Like, why are they homeless? I mean, Singapore, we have so many HDB flats, we have rental flats and all that. Why are they not housed? Harry, could you explain a bit?
Okay, maybe I'll backtrack a bit and talk about the demographics. I think, yes, there are more and more younger people, and also I think one neglected area is definitely the LGBTQ as well. We don't really, talk about that in terms of the homelessness discourse in Singapore. But the majority of homeless people, they are staying in the shelters. The majority of homeless people, they are still sleeping outside. And for some reason, we don't see there's not a lot of young people who sleep outside. And maybe June can address this later on. I don't know why we don't see a lot of trans people sleeping outside as well.
Because she has a shelter to look after them.
It's not that you don't see trans persons sleeping outside. It's you have seen already, but you don't know they are trans.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
that's right.
It's just that they don't came out to you and say, "Oh, I'm trans."
I think partly because of the stigma as well. It's very important to protect yourself. So people don't really identify and they don't reveal to you because you're a stranger as well.
And
So-
also, sorry, I had to, my habit is to interrupt people. But and also, if they review themselves, right, they cannot get the help.
They cannot get the
So
help.
if they review they are transgender, because the gender identity doesn't align with what the gender in the NRIC, right, no mainstream shelter will accept them.
Okay, I'll go back to you on this. Harry, can you continue first?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Sorry.
We'll talk
No
about
worries,
that
no
later.
worries.
So yeah, the majority are still older people. I mean, we still have older people. And it comes then to the question, why are people homeless, right? So, the funny thing is we can't really say that one particular event leads to homelessness. You take drugs means you become homeless, or you're trans means you become homeless. You can't say that homelessness is caused by one thing. So from the study that I did during my PhD, and that's the question that I was grappling with: what causes homelessness? Because how do you differentiate from person A who took drugs but don't become homeless, and person B who take drugs and then are on the streets, right? So it turns out then that actually one way to think about how people become homeless is losing resources. That means the person lose resources along the way. And there are some resources that are very important in Singapore, namely the ability to work, namely family, as well as government assistance. So what I realized was that if you somehow lose your ability to work, or you can't find a job, and you don't have family support, the only line of defense then is the government assistance. But if you also so happen not to be able to get government assistance, well, your options are very little. And that, like what some homeless people tell me, eventually everything runs out. You run out of your option. The only thing for them to do is to go to the streets and sleep outside, because they lose once a housing crisis occurs.
So they ran out of savings. They couldn't rent anywhere. They couldn't stay in any
Yeah. So
hostel or
essentially,
something.
they run out of resources. They run out of the ability to work, means you don't have money, right? So if you don't have savings, you don't have money, and then you cannot call your parents and say that, or any family members, and if they have poor relationship with the family members, who want to take you in? Nobody will take you in. And then if you have prior, maybe if you have a criminal record, or if you have sold, our housing policy also have certain rules, right? So if you have sold HDB flat for 2 times, then you cannot go and
apply for BTO and all that, right?
Yeah, there are rules to that as well. That said, increasingly, I think the government realized that as well, and therefore that's why in a recent piece that we wrote, there are some changes on the ground as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I will go to June. So I think you were trying to say like why are transgenders, why are LGBTs, why some of them become homeless, right?
Okay, before I forgot,
Sure.
because Harry Tan mentioned PhD, so I must mention from my experience being an award-winning founder of a homeless transgender shelter since 2014.
Yes.
Yes. So I disagree with Henry because again, it's very easy to equate homelessness with losing a job. Then people will automatically think that if you got a job, you won't be homeless. The majority of the people staying at my shelter got a job.
Okay, but why are they homeless?
And they're still homeless.
Why?
It's not losing resources. Sorry, PhD. It's not losing resources.
It's okay to disagree.
Without supportive system. If I lose my resources, but I got a supportive system behind me, I still can. It's the supportive system doesn't cater. Unfortunately, the supportive system that Singapore has doesn't cater for all. Like the rental flats, you need 2-person. Rental flat, you need like even finding a job, you need a permanent address. The first thing that I realized when I started a shelter is everybody asked me, my residents asked me whether they can put the address the shelter on their NRIC, as simple as that. Because if you don't have a permanent address at that time, because I started 2014, 10 years ago, at that time you need a permanent address to receive all your legal documents. You need a permanent address to have a bank account. All these simple things. All this simple that we take for granted, but for homelessness, they don't have. So it's not they cannot find a job, they don't want to find a job. It's their circumstances make them very difficult to secure or to hold on to a permanent job. What if the employer asks them, where should I send your paycheck to? What's your address? Because a simple permanent address on an NRIC will have a snowball effect. Correct? And so I want to stop it already, please, everybody. Stop it by keep saying they are homeless because they cannot find a job, they cannot secure a job. They has a job. I agree with Harry. Homelessness is not only because you don't have this, then it's a mountain of issues. Is addiction issues, medical condition, is relationship issues, is your emotional baggage, it's all these issues. So homelessness is a byproduct of all these issues.
But June,
Yes.
but you were saying that even if they were employed, they can still be homeless. But can you explain further, like why it can't like rent a room, or why can't they stay somewhere? Yeah.
So I'm speaking from the cases, my LGBT community that stay at my shelter, right? It's because Singapore BTO so expensive. How long you want to work in order to have CPF? You see, if I find a job if you have like 1,000, most likely my those that stay at my homeless shelter, right, most likely not all will be low wage job, lowly educated. So their wages is under the lower end. So when they meet challenges, when they come homelessness already, then at the time when they want to really, I must work to secure a house, then they realize how expensive a flat is. They have zero CPF, zero savings, and then it's a struggle. If you earn 1,500, how long do you need to work before you can secure a flat?
Also, if it's 1,500 with or without CPF, it makes a lot of difference, right?
Yes, and then because they are homeless at that period, right? So a huge chunk of their salary go towards paying rental in the open market. Right? If they're not staying in my shelter, right? They have to pay open market price rent. And then especially for LGBT, we have zero family support. We cannot turn to our uncles or auntie or father, mother for help. And then eventually everybody will exhaust their friend support systems, right? And so that's when all the challenges come in, and that's when they feel very helpless. So, but then I must say, at T Project, we try to pair up, especially LGBT, because of the gender identity or the sexual orientations, right? It add add another layer of challenge to what they already have, what they are really facing already. So I have residents who are rejected by mainstream shelters, and then they refer to my shelters. I have residents who don't identify as transgender, who have sexual orientation, also refer to my shelter. I have residents who are rejected by mainstream shelters, religion based.
Go on.
Because of a medical condition, they refer to my shelter. So I'm very, very happy, very grateful that they all refer to me lah. But I think the other religious-based shelter could do better.
Okay, I hear you, June. Harry, what's your take on this, I guess?
I actually agree with June in terms of the losing the resources, because that's exactly my point earlier on.
Okay.
So when you lose the ability to work, you lose family support, you lose government assistance. So cumulatively, you are losing support in society. So yeah, that's the point. How people become homeless now when they are unable to get support from society.
But people don't become homeless. People, I feel that, like, okay, Harry done first. I cannot, my thoughts run.
Okay. So what else was,
I mean, I wanted to ask a sensitive question. I don't know whether we can
ask.
I love sensitive questions. I love it. Is it direct to me or direct to Harry?
Harry.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, because June said that a lot of shelters refer cases to her, right? So, I mean, I think it is quite sensitive. But what is your? I mean, what do you know about this, and why are they doing that?
I think what I can say about this, short of speaking out of step, is basically I think our shelter systems, or to a certain extent, probably I'll talk about transgender homeless people. So transgender homeless people, as a sociologist, maybe I use a bit more team words. They really, as a group of homeless people already face stigma, right? But transgender, you add on to that, you kind of face multiple intersecting,
Double, triple.
Yeah, multiple stigmas from society. So I think I didn't really have a chance to talk to any. I actually spoke to one, but again, I refer back to what my ex-student has done, and she has spoken to young LGBTQ homeless people. And one of the things that was found out in her study was that our systems in this country are not designed to meet the needs of transgender homeless people. That's why June said that, when they go to mainstream shelters, I don't think we are equipped to know what to do. And even if they know what to do, they don't know how to, the thing about shelter is, how do you care for the safety of the person who's going to go into the shelter, their client, so to speak, right? So at this stage, I don't think our shelters are equipped. Well, at least mainstream shelters, they don't know enough, right? We don't really have this awareness. And again, June mentioned something earlier on, like, why I don't see it, because I don't know enough, right? We don't talk about this enough. So maybe when, people like volunteers who are from maybe the other groups, when we walk past, we don't even know, right? We just think that, this person is a woman, this person is a man. Yeah, I totally agree that we need more awareness here.
I mean, this dialogue, like, we need to do more for the LGBT. We need to be more proactive. It's been like so many years already, and still hear Harry say we need to do more.
Okay. So let me just go back to okay. So I think Harry, you just wrote a commentary on homelessness. Let's go into that. So I think you mentioned about homelessness. Solving homelessness is not just about providing a roof, and I think there's quite a lot of things to do to help them. Can you elaborate more about that? Like, what are some of the things that you can help support them to exit homelessness?
Yeah, so I wrote that commentary because one of the things that or at least my study found out was during the PhD was that I realized that actually homelessness don't end when people have a shelter. It doesn't end when, say, for example, they have a rental flat. So housing, yes, is a key step towards solving people's problem because it gives them a proper place to rest. But the support, the befriender, having someone to, work through or walk through with them, different crises that may occur. Because you must not forget that for those who have been sleeping very long on the streets, right, whether it's 10, 20 years, it's very hard to just say, I give you a house and then you go and manage the house on your own. You need help, right? Because you have been so used to a particular, I wouldn't say a lifestyle, but a particular way of living. So that when you then now have a new house or a new rental flat, there's a new whole set of things to handle. You got bills to pay, you got all these different admins to do. You got to also clean up the flat and so on. So that's something that I talk about. Also, not just on the practical everyday aspect of living in a home, but when we talk about homeless people, especially older homeless people, a lot of long-term homeless people do actually have other challenges or issues that they have. For example, some may be recovering addicts. Some may have also some mental health issues. So all these issues, again, need to be supported. Right? You need someone to work through with them. And when you talk about bringing two people onto, or even just flatmates, right, in a rental flat, when they have conflict, you need someone to help them resolve it as well, or just someone to just sit down and say, okay, let's talk about this, or why are you so angry, that kind of thing. Just to mediate. And that will be very helpful. But a lot of time, what we have is we don't have enough resources or personnel. Let's not use resources. We don't have enough people on the ground, enough volunteers to do this, because it takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of time just to journey with homeless people. It's a lot easier just to, this is your house. Okay, I'll see you and check in with you in 1 year's time. So that level of commitment for a befriender is very challenging.
June, what do you think about this?
I had to disagree again.
Sure, no problem.
I think everyone should stop seeing homeless people as a problem needing a solution. Stop seeing homeless people needing help. I always never say I want to help. How can I help you? I hate this word. I say, how can I support you? So I always see homeless people as very capable. They are all very, especially for my community. Like if they can homeless for 20 years, can you imagine someone stay in the street for 20 years and still surviving? I cannot. I cannot even survive for I think 3 days. So I see them as very capable people. It's just that at that moment in time, a lot of issues they cannot resolve, and then they fall into this gap, this hole that they cannot climb themselves up. So just with the support, I always tell people, what does a homeless person need the most? Not shelter, not a place to stay, permanent. Whether it's permanent accommodation, permanent home, permanent place, but it must be permanent. So once they realize they don't have to keep worrying about what will happen next, where will they go next, what will happen tomorrow, this thing. Once they have that stability in their life, oh my God, I tell you, the resources that they have inside, the innate survival skills all come up. I got this. I always tell people, why, June, what you do when your resident leave the shelter? You still, sorry, once they leave the shelter, I just block the number already.
Are you serious?
Then, because they're all capable. I hate people. I don't have that do-gooder syndrome or the rescue. Oh, now they leave now they found a new place. They are not used to it. They must help them. I don't have that. Someone called me after leave my shelter, say the TV is spoiled. Can I go to the house and help them? I said, sorry, the social service office is just downstairs. Immediately I block the number.
Okay.
They are all capable. I also want to see to ask you all to see homeless not as a problem. They are all capable people, just that they just need some support. Stop babysitting them. I see a lot of people who try to, we must help them, we must make them not homeless. When So everybody tell me what's the thing that you do? Any programs in your shelter? No programs. My only main objective for them is to get permanent accommodation. So it's most likely, because they don't have CPF, most likely it's rental flat. I agree with Harry, because two persons stay together may be fiction. Two strangers stay together may be fiction. That's why my shelter works, because they're all transgender. So they will stay at my shelter for the 3 or 6 months, even a year. Then they find who they can get along with. And then they will come to me, June, I'm ready for a rental flat with this resident A, this resident B, this resident C. Then I will do the...
Oh, you're the matchmaker.
Yes, matchmaker for rental flats. And
that's awesome.
I'm very successful. And I can tell you quite a few successful cases. I have a very angry elderly resident, full of anger because life is so unfair. She always treated unfair. Life is so unfair, full of anger. I found her... She still don't believe me. Like, when go HDB sign the paper, she still don't believe me. Only when I brought her with a belonging to the flat, then she was like, "Oh, I can see her face. Oh, this is my place." It's like, oh. Then I hand her the keys. Now she's looking after 4 kittens, 2 plants, own self find job.
Wow.
Don't need even me to hold the hands. Own self, they're all capable. Especially now during COVID-19, join the course, online course. After join the course, got incentive, right?
Okay, so June brought up the thing about the HDB,
Yes.
the single scheme, right? I think HDB has a pilot project, right? So that I think some homeless people may be able to apply for a flat without looking for another person first. I mean, Harry, can you tell us more about it, and like how does this help this situation?
I think what the HDB scheme, the revised scheme does is to basically, you don't have to go and find a partner on your own. So you can just go straight to HDB and say that I need a shelter. And then they will facilitate the partnering for you. Very much like what June does, matchmaking for clients. I think this helps in a way that it removes the need to, if I don't have a partner, I cannot go and do this. I cannot go and find a shelter. So it basically fast tracks a person's access to a shelter. So it does, have the effect of, getting people into shelter faster.
But there's still the problem of living with a stranger, right?
Yes.
That problem, unfortunately,
Doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away.
Especially for the transgender community. So the HDB matched by, I think, age and gender based on NRIC. So I could be a very beautiful woman, but my gender is male. So they were going to match me with a 78 years old man who chain smokes. Because they don't... but I know some I think NUS students, they're starting this project, this study, this app, where they were matched not only with the age, the gender identity, habits. Once I just received an email, I did help them, yes. So that's why I say my shelter work is because we match people that know each other. Now that's why it works. And HDB is doing marvelous work. I work closely with HDB. HDB just yesterday morning just refer a transgender woman to T Project because that transgender woman is going to kick out of the home soon. And she also wanted to find a partner for the rental flat, but he wanted a transgender as a partner. That's why HDB referred to us. HDB, the finding of the linking up with a stranger thing, I think should be fine. HDB should find it. But HDB, I love HDB because everything case by case review. I cannot review more. Everything is case by case review. Yes, I love it. Flexible.
Oh, okay. So they actually work very proactively to refer transgender singles to you and transgender homeless people to you.
I can only say they work proactively all aspects to get my residents permanent accommodation, and I'm going to leave it like that.
Okay. I hear you when June, you say that your resident, like once they find a house, you try not to contact them. But I also hear Harry's point of view, like, a lot of places they still need some further help and all that. But So what has been done in this aspect? Like, do they have more coordinated counseling or mental health support for these people?
I think what needs to be done, actually not what has been done, but what needs to be done is to have more coordination in terms of the befrienders who can go, and basically befriend many of the elderlies who are living alone. Maybe I'll clarify that point a little bit,
sure.
Right? It's not so much about helping homeless people, but I agree that, homeless people have agency, they're totally capable. But if you think about older folks, and when you bring them into the rental flats, many of our older folks are especially men, right? They don't really have a community. So I think what I'm trying to emphasize here is the need of a community for people who are living in rental flats, and we know that women are more they go to the SAC, the senior activity centers. They don't mind going there to interact and to make friends, but a lot of our homeless uncles, when they go have a rental flat, then they start to withdraw and they start to live on.
Isolated.
If they are isolated, and if you don't get along with your flatmate, right, then the issue here is that you don't really have anybody else to turn to, because the friends that you make on the streets may not be nearby. So sometimes we see them going back to sit at where they used to sleep rough in, because they say that, all my friends are here, and then at the flat nobody is there. So I think bringing that community to homeless people is something that we are still, thinking, how do we do that, right? What kind of community is needed? That's something that we are working on as well.
But I think also, we also do hear of cases like they don't get along with their flatmates and then they just end up sleeping downstairs and all that, right?
Yeah, usually the person who... Yeah, so one person would definitely, it depends on an argument. So one person would... I wouldn't say stronger or weaker, but someone who really cannot take it, then they will just leave. They will just if they can't stand that conflict, or especially if you're a conflict avoidant person, then you rather not be in that stressful environment, and then you go and sit downstairs, or you go and you take a backpack and you go out and sleep. Yeah.
Okay, June. I read somewhere it's a study from US that.
Study again, huh?
Study.
Okay. June doesn't like study.
Sorry. It's
You must tell June about real life stories.
But it's something relatable, because they said that in the US, right, 1 in 5 transgender people have experienced homelessness at some point in their lives. So I really wanted to know, is this that common in Singapore?
Okay, before I answer a question, what happens, as what Lee Kuan Yew say, what applies overseas doesn't apply to Singapore one.
Sure,
so
sure,
the study is in US, right?
Yeah.
So such a vastly different country, why are you applying their studies?
I'm not applying, I'm asking whether is it like this in Singapore?
Non-relatable first. Firstly, it's non-relatable. And why we don't have local studies? I'm looking, if you cite me local studies, I will be more enthusiastic. Why we don't have?
Sure.
Why must we?
June is looking at me.
Is it because we don't have local studies about transgender community? You must go and see the US one. So pathetic.
Okay. So on the ground,
Yes, on the ground one.
Yeah, is it
yes,
prevalent?
Actually, when I started my shelter, it's mostly elderly transgender. I must tell you, imagine in the 50s and 60s. Don't have all this what podcast us invite transgender person what NUS don't have all this one gender study, don't have all this one So at that time the world is still very conservative, right? Transgender are most likely sex workers, most likely because no options for them. Not now. Now I got transgender student in all the university. My God, so envious. So that at that time don't have. So when they become old, when they become old and they cannot work as sex worker anymore, then they discover they got zero job skills. They discover they cannot get, because they lost touch with their families already, and that's when the challenges come in, and then that's when they become homeless. So when you say 1 in 5, I don't know, because no study is done in Singapore. I can only tell you, when I first started my shelter, yes, the homeless, the residents that stay at my shelter are most of them are elderly, former or current sex workers.
But are you looking to expand to help Okay, I can't say help, right? You don't like the word help,
Yes,
right?
support.
Support.
If you help me,
more.
give me a condo and a Mercedes.
Yeah, are you looking to expand? Cannot share.
We are expanding already. We are expanding in amazing ways that I cannot share here. What I can share is we are locating to a new shelter. Yes, we are locating the new shelter, and in the future, T Project will finally be hiring more staffs.
Wow, okay.
Full-time paid staff.
That's great. That's great.
all I can share.
Okay.
Oh, my big mouth.
Akan
It's a struggle.
datang.
It's a struggle. Really a struggle to me, yes.
Okay.
I can move on faster before I spill the beans.
Okay. So Harry, I mean, like, what's next then? Like, what can we do more to help? Not just transgender, of course, but like everyone. What kind of assistance, support, can we give to homelessness? Yeah.
Okay, I think there are some issues that we can think about when we want to talk about, better supporting homeless people. Okay, I'll get it out of the way. Yeah, transgender homeless people is definitely one area that we have neglected, right? Neglected in the sense that there's, like June is correct, there's no study done, right? There are other areas.
Okay.
The second area is I think long-term homelessness. The amount of time older people, or not just older people, but people spend sleeping outside. Sometimes you hear the numbers, you find like, how is it possible? But actually,
it's incredible, right? How they survive outside.
Yeah, actually, what they really, I think, having talked to most homeless people, what they mean, right, is that for them, right, I have been homeless for 30 years, and that homelessness includes the new term that we found today, indoor homelessness as well. So that 30 years, I feel I'm homeless. I don't have.
Does it include, like, a few years ago there was the stories about in Hong Kong people were sleeping inside the fast food restaurants. Is that included in your definition of homelessness?
And that is actually just street homelessness. Sleeping in a fast food restaurant is not a shelter. It's the same as sleeping rough, right? So it's just that you found sleeping in a fast food restaurant is very similar to sleeping in an open air pavilion with a shelter, right? You just have a roof over your head, but you're sleeping outside, right? That's different from sleeping in a shelter, like T shelter, for example, or the T project, for example. That is a sheltered homelessness. So long-term homelessness is one area that we need to support better, because we need to find out why people say no to the kind of assistance, to the kind of support that volunteers go to the ground and say, "Uncle, do you want a shelter?" The answer is no. We need to find out why people say that, I don't want to share a rental flat with anybody. And I suspect we already know the reasons. That is, I don't want to share the rental flat because, very similar to what I think transgender people may face, is that stigma and sometimes the fear, especially for addicts, recovering addicts. Some of them don't want to share a flat. They don't want to go into a shelter because in the shelter are all my previous friends who know me as an addict.
Oh, wow, okay.
Who will come and ask me if I want to go and, go back to drugs and so on. So they fear that influence in the shelter as well. So that's one thing. I think the second one is, I think what we talked about earlier on is that we all agree that the response to homelessness lies beyond just providing housing. Yeah.
I have a question though, like, I don't know, okay, just respond if whatever you think, but is it okay if, you said that there are people who say no to shelters and no to homes, but is it okay if we just let them be? Is it okay? Is it ethical, or is it like, should we respect their choices?
Okay, what I always tell people, I do not do things for people. Mm-hmm. I need them to ask me first. I hate well-intentioned. I always call young do-gooders. I don't want. I'm very fierce one. So you want anything, you ask me. If you never ask me, I'll take it that you are comfortable. You're comfortable with whatever homeless standard you are comfortable. So I don't come with a preconceived, or I must do this, I must do that. I very lazy one. I don't want to do more work. So what you want, you ask me. If you don't ask that you want a job, you want to get rental flat, you want this, you must ask me. I don't go, oh my God, how are you feeling today? Anything you want to share with me? Okay. You want a job? I never ask. I always ask. So I think what all of y'all did is you all must ask what they actually what they want, and then try to align with your support system to what they want. Because as what Harry just shared, they got a rental flat far away from their circle. Can we try to find a flat near? Can we try to do that? So what I do when I say I don't ask, right, but I still need to draw them out, right? So I will pair. So I actually not say hire lah. I ask my former shelter residents, elderly one in the community one, to ask.
Okay.
To ask.
Engage.
Any the isolated elderly in a community that she knows. Go and visit them.
Oh, okay.
So I started. So I started Moonlight befriending services, where a volunteer from T Project, elderly volunteer, will go and befriend the isolated elderly transgender woman living alone in rental flats, and don't need to take few sessions, build rapport instantly build, because they know each other last time.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So easier, lor.
Yeah.
So because I don't have the manpower to train the volunteers what to say, what not to say, right? I don't have to do all this.
You harness your former
residents who to also provide her some stimulation, provide her a part-time job, provide her a steady income, something like I pay her per session so she can buy cat food for her pets. You see?
Okay, makes sense.
Makes sense, huh?
Yeah.
I try a small scale. I try to do all this. Or if I want to outreach to the SONA people, then I will maybe have a gay person to go. And again, Harry mentioned addict. I must say, not all addict is homeless. Not all addict will end up homeless. I have people who suffer from addiction.
Not all homeless people are addicts, right?
Again, I say with stability, addict is just a coping mechanism. Nobody is born addict. Addiction is just a coping. Whether addict to alcohol, whether addict to drug, it's just a coping mechanism. I had to disagree again with Harry that say, because shelter got a lot of rules, got CCTV, so in my shelter they cannot take drugs. So it's actually a safe space for them. So I have prison already referred clients to me to serve. They asked me to say that to serve the tier end of their sentence at my shelter. If the tagging system, word release system, if they don't have family to go back to. So most are from DRC, most are former drug offenders. So in my shelter, they actually living very disciplined, very structured life. Is when imagine if they go out. No family support, no permanent accommodation. Who will they find?
Your old friends.
The old friend. And then what's the first thing they do? Take drugs together.
That's why you need the support.
That's why I said no support system. Resources Singapore have already. The support system must tailor for all, not only tailored for the mainstream.
As to whether we can leave homeless people on the streets, I think it depends on the context. I mean, if the homeless person is sick or not feeling well, I don't think you should leave that person there, just lying there, and you should help that homeless person. But if the homeless person is working, or like what June say, have a normal life, right? Homeless people are just people who happen to be there. Let's not even use the tag homeless in that sense. Yes. It's a person there. Then I think, you can leave the person there and then work with the person and ask them, learn more about them. And I think one of the questions that you kind of posed to us was, how do you help people without forcing help on them?
Yeah.
So I think that's the point that we are trying to talk about, right? So how to help people without forcing help on them.
They don't want help.
Yeah, I think we need to change the mindset. I agree with June. We have to change the mindset and move away from a symptomatic approach, which is to say that we should not see the homeless person sleeping outside and straight away think
they need help.
Exactly. How do I solve your problem? Right? How do I solve his or her problem? And that's something that we wrote in the op-ed as well. So I think increasingly we need to take the time to know the person who is sleeping there. And what June mentioned about, getting ex-homeless people who live in the shelter or so on That's a brilliant idea, and that's what organizations have been doing as well. Right? So it's wonderful. That is a wonderful idea, and that person can be the guide for student volunteers or volunteers like myself who don't know enough, right? Who wants to be involved in the community. Let's not, chase away people who wants to volunteer in the area as well.
Be a role model, right? Like let people know what they can achieve also in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I had to put it out there.
Sure.
Thank you for all the good work that you all have done for the homelessness. I really appreciate. You all have opened the doors for me.
Okay.
Don't edit this part out. In case I expect.
So basically, I think it's something that as a volunteer, I think we have to become more aware of, especially those who are volunteering on the ground for so long. Sometimes our mindset is like when we see a homeless person, it becomes part of our psyche or our training that straight away we go there and we try to get them and talk about, hey uncle, you got working or not this month? You want shelter or not? So those kind of questions, right? It's like you don't spend time trying to know the person. And one of my, sorry, I have to mention students because I work with students. And one of the students came to this outreach with us, and she mentioned, hey, how come you all only talk about work and shelter? The uncle is playing handphone games there. So she went and just chatted with the uncle on the handphone games, and the uncle was so interested. Immediately the eyes light up, and they had a long conversation about how to play this game, how to do it better.
Okay.
That's, I think, is a perfect way of seeing the person for the individual rather than
get to know the person.
Yeah,
first.
don't see the person as a homeless person. When you see the person as a homeless person, your mind will immediately go to, okay, you need shelter, you need work, you need that kind of thing, right? So
I totally agree.
Yeah.
This one I totally agree. Finally,
we are in sync.
Harry.
That's what I always say. Don't see transgender person. Don't see their gender identity first. See that as an individual first. So as what Harry said, you don't see a homeless. You don't see a person without home. You see an individual first. Yes.
Okay, I think we are almost at the end of the podcast. Any last words you want to mention?
So fast, man, and
Yeah.
Harry first lah.
Pressure. I think since I had the opportunity to meet June and to talk about this. I think I would like to end by saying that although we haven't done a research on transgender homelessness, I think this is a very important area, a gap that we have missed. And I think helping transgender homeless people, and June has done a brilliant job here, and also helping other homeless people for that matter, is not to force that person to change in a particular quote-unquote lifestyle for the sake of conforming to society or conformity. But it's actually an invitation, like what we wrote in our recently, an invitation to walk into social inclusion in society. That is very important. That person must feel at home in society. If you feel out
of place, not in the community.
Yeah, then essentially that's homelessness as well. You feel homeless, right? You don't have a community to call your own. And that's what a lot of older people face.
Okay, June?
I think to stop saying to stop seeing homelessness as a problem, to stop using words like I want to support, I want to help, but to start saying like, how can we start offering options to them?
Good options.
Offering options that are good to you may not be good to them.
Options that they want.
Options that they want.
Okay.
Even options that they don't want, we can also offer to them because people change one, ma. Huh?
Okay.
Just offer all the different options that we can offer them. Whether they take it up or not, is another story, lor.
Provided it don't harm them, lah. Some options like.
Okay, again, this is very academic. So you feel that this will harm them, but perhaps they come from different perspective. This doesn't harm them. You say like you always say, "Oh, go back to their family," but then they could have suffered trauma from the family, what?
Correct.
So that to you going back, family support was so big, right, y'all? Sure, correct, one, go back family, but to them it's not, ma. So again, very, very mindful you all. The road to hell is paved with good intention. Stop being a do-gooder. So the word is offer options and support according to their needs and wants, according to what they want, and then do your best. Just do your best. You don't need to. This homeless person must become homeless and do my job. I have never think that one.
Sorry, before you end, I suddenly have a question for you. Like how long do your residents actually stay for? And like how do you push for them to like be rehomed somewhere else? I'm sorry, maybe this question should have came earlier.
Push for them.
As in like, you know, like when they come to your shelter, right? Do you have to like tell them to go and get accommodation, or you just let them stay for a while?
God, I don't tell people what to do. Who am I? I don't tell people what to do. They refer to me by social worker. I have a shelter. I house them, and I let them settle down. I always tell them, don't think about anything. Take this 1-2 months, settle down first, and then after that, then you tell me what you want. Be it a job, be it a permanent accommodation, be it find a partner, or they could just say, after my end, I'm going to leave. I got friends outside. Okay, fine. Totally fine with me. So I don't have that like everybody come in. Okay, how should I put it? I don't have KPIs.
Like KPI, like within 3 months you must be home. Is it no such thing?
No such thing. It all depends. Their pace. It all depends on their flow, their pace. You don't come in. Okay, you must apply. You must apply. You must do this, do that. I don't do that. I don't have the time. Who am I to ask them to? They're all more capable than me. Just that they're homeless. I'm just like a bit luckier than them lah. That's all. I'm in a parallel universe. I may be them also. That's what I work with. In a parallel universe, I may be them also. So before I want to help them, I'll ask, is this what I want also? This is what I want. Yes. Answer your question or not?
Yes. Okay, so in conclusion, I think what June also mentioned, that I think it's very, very important to treat those on the streets or those who are indoor homeless to I guess see them as a person and offer them options, right? That's why you said, and help them if they ask for help, right? Okay, great. I'd like to thank my guests, Dr. Harry Tan and June Chua, for their time today. Thank you all for listening in. See you on the next episode of On Diversity. On Diversity is a podcast inspired by the Institute of Policy Studies Managing Diversity's research program. Please follow or subscribe to the On Diversity podcast to get notified when we have a new episode. You can visit our website ipscommons.sg for more info.